This is Andy Miles, and I'm talking today with Ken Coleman, host of The Ken Coleman Show, which airs live on WCGO every Monday through Friday at noon Central and again at 11 p.m. Central. Join the conversation with Ken as he delivers practical advice to help you discover the role you were born to play and map out a plan to get there. We talked over Zoom. Ken, how long have you been doing the show, and what got you started in doing a show like this?
We're coming up on 3 years, and the reason we started the show is to create as diverse of a platform as possible so that you're on all mediums. And the opportunity, because of Dave and his legacy as a Hall of Famer and his influence, the opportunity to lead into him on Sirius XM is where we started, and now we're on 50 stations and growing all around the country. And the idea was just to bring another show that is full of hope and practical knowledge and wisdom that people can grasp and actually apply. I wanted to bring another show like that to the airwaves, but in a very different area. As Dave is in finance, personal finance, we're in the area of people's work. And, is there more to work than just 9 to 5, 40-hour week, and just making enough money to pay the bills? Is there more to work? And we believe there is. And we believe that everybody longs to make a difference, to help people in their work. And so, the caller-driven format, which is what the Ken Coleman Show is, just like the Dave Ramsey Show and other successful shows that are caller-driven, it's good radio and will always be good radio because it is real, it is raw, and people enjoy learning from others as they listen to their stories.
And it's a unique place in the market. I mean, it's a real niche that you're filling there.
Yeah, we're excited to be the only nationally syndicated show that I'm aware of that is totally focused on your work and purpose in your life. And, if you were to ask me, what's a one-sentence mission statement? What are the results that we want out of the Ken Coleman Show? It's pretty simple. It's to help people connect their personal mission to their professional vision. Because we're not promoting workaholics. We're not, this naked ambition and just, go make as much money as possible. What we're promoting is purpose in your work. And so that's what the Ken Coleman Show is about. It's fun to hear men and women get clear every day on the air. And it's a needed conversation right now. We don't need another political talk show. And we certainly don't need another money talk show. But we definitely need a space where people and around the globe, we're getting calls from all around the globe because of the podcast of the radio show. So people are calling in live. And we need a show like this right now that helps people understand there is a way to get clear on the age-old question, what should I do with my life?
Yeah, and you found that purpose in your work by doing the show.
Yeah.
And you're doing the show 5 nights a week. And when you go into a show or come out of a show having just finished one, what do you think of as a compelling hour of radio? What gives you that feeling when you've finished a show?
Breakthrough for the callers. If we've got multiple callers that are really going from unclear to clear, from not confident to confident, from having no courage to courage, any combination of those things, it is broadcasting. So there are certain calls that are just more compelling than others, just in the nature of the story. But I define it by, were we able to get breakthrough in the form of belief, clarity, and then some actionable steps that they were like, okay, that's it. I can do that. Ken, that's huge. So the aha moments are what we're looking for there. And then somebody feeling like, okay, those next steps, that's exactly what I needed to hear. It's definitely for the caller, but it's also more for the broader audience because they're listening in and they're kind of taking their story, their circumstance, and laying it over the caller and looking for the similarities. And so when we hear that happen on the air, when I hear it, that means the audience is hearing it. That's a really good show.
And I would imagine the follow-up calls are pretty interesting too, as you can chart someone's progress.
And we've been very open about that from day one. I didn't want people to feel like they were a prop, that they were calling in and I was going to swat them and mistreat them and make fun of them to try to be edgy. And that I wanted people to feel like they could call in multiple times and give us progress for 2 reasons. Number one, I want to be that counselor and coach and cheerleader. That's what I am. I'm 3 parts. And depending on the call, sometimes I play all 3 roles. Sometimes I just play one. but I want the audience to feel like I'm walking alongside of them. And so when somebody calls back in and they've made progress, that encourages the audience. And then when they step into their dream job, we do a dream scream where people call in and share their story, and then they count it down from 3, 2, 1, and they yell, "I'm living the dream." And, we want people to experience the journey and to experience finish lines.
And what would you say kind of underpins your general philosophy in terms of the message you're imparting to people? And has that evolved?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It has evolved some, but only in the way I say it. The philosophy is this, that I believe that every man and woman on the planet was created to contribute and to contribute through their work. So there's a secular worldview that simply it's not some insidious movement. It's just most people look at work as, well, I work to live, meaning I've got to go work to make a paycheck to be able to take care of my shelter, my food, transportation, clothes, utilities. If there's a little left over, we make some memories and we get the kid to college. That's how most people view work. The actual data is 90,000 plus hours is what an American will work on average in their lifetime, 90,000 hours. So if you take work and sleep, there's not a whole lot left over. And that's mind-boggling to me that anyone would just be okay just trying to make it through. We also know there's some data that 74% of Americans know they could leave their job, that there is an opportunity for them to leave and they could get out of this boring or this miserable, toxic job, but they don't. And the reason is because of the fear of change and the fear of the unknown. So we'd rather be miserable because we know what we're dealing with as opposed to being uncomfortable. And I'm trying to be the person who steps in the middle there and goes, hey, there's a bridge here. And so the philosophy is that everybody was created to contribute through your work. So we are actually created to work. So we live to work, to make a difference. And when we do that, then we find tremendous meaning in ourselves and we make the world a better place. So that's the philosophy underneath the entire show. So once you shift your mindset to, oh, somebody out there needs me to actually show up in the marketplace and be the best version of me. So now we go to duty. So now we can get you to the point where we go, whoa, if I'm not being who I was created to be, I'm letting somebody else down. Now, it's not about guilt, but I want people to see the importance of who they really are. And then they stop comparing themselves to everybody. And your dream job is very different than my dream job. And so that's the underpinning philosophy that leads to our methodology.
Yeah, and are you now holding your dream job?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I get up every day and I am completely focused on the things that I love to do. I'm passionate about broadcasting, and live performance is essentially what we could boil that down to. I love communicating. I love coming up with content. I love counseling people. I love coaching people. And I love affirming and cheering people on. So that's what I get to do every day. Well, then the result of that work is my mission. And that's to get as many people on purpose by getting them clear so that they can confidently step out. And then when life throws the curves and the detours at them, they can courageously stay on path. So to turn people on in their hearts, to get them fired up and to dream big and to go after the dream, that's the result of my work. So, and I get to do it in a really great culture. So yeah, but I'm not done dreaming, but I'm living the dream.
You mentioned fear earlier. If you were to talk about your callers in sort of a general way, would you say that that's the major obstacle, the one you identified earlier, which is the fear of change?
Yeah, and it's a level deeper than change itself. The reason that we fear change is because we fear the unknown. So the actual really scary monster, the biggest one in all of our lives, is the unknown. Because if I told you that we were going to go do some action sport or something, so maybe we were going to climb or we were going to, do whitewater rafting or something, and I said to you, now look, there's some risk associated with this, right? Generally speaking, this is safe and you're not going to die, but there's some risk here, and I were to list out all the things that were risky. At that point, you might still have some fear, but I've told you what the risks are, and now you can weigh that. Now, you still might decide not to do it, you're probably, once you've assessed the risk and you go, okay, then I'm gonna step in and I'm more likely to do something. But if we're to go walk into a cave, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, I've been in it twice, it's really freaky, where you can't see anything, nothing. You can't see 2 feet in front of your face. So that'll lock somebody up fast. And so that's the idea. We are willing to take on some change if we know what the risks are. But we still might not do it, but we're more apt to take on change if we are, okay, this is what could happen. Long odds of that. This could happen, greater odds of that. Once you show me everything, I go, okay, that's a risk I might be willing to take. But when you don't know what's ahead and it's a true adventure and you're not sure how it's going to turn out, where the path is going to take you, that freaks a lot of people out. So it's the fear of the unknown, which is the greatest fear.
So the future of work, I know one of the topics you've been kind of focusing on lately is how the new-collar workforce is here to stay and how employers are adjusting at record speed. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, there's just a couple trends that people need to be aware of. Obviously, with the onset of COVID and everybody going home, you're going to see remote working increase, and it already has. You're going to see a lot of companies go, hey, we were really efficient and we had to be. And so when we actually had to adjust, we made adjustments and we looked at it, and the things we're scared of with remote working, we're not scared of. And we found out that we could save hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, through some new behaviors related to what we learned in remote working. So I think that's interesting. I also think that what you're going to see is, I think you're going to see talent acquisition change. I think people who may live in the Northwest or on the West Coast who would not be willing to move to the Southeast or to the Northeast, companies are willing, I think, are going to be willing to say, all right, we want you because you're really talented, and we're not going to ask that you move here. We'll hire you, and you can work from your desired place of living, and maybe you travel 5-6 times a year. I think that's going to change talent acquisition as well. So those two major trends, I think, are here to stay because of what happened with COVID. No question about it.
And record unemployment means a historically crowded job market. How do you stand out with tens of millions of resumes floating around?
Yeah, you're going to have to leverage relationships. It will be your connections, not your qualifications. It really will. I think if you're out there and you're trying to get a job in a very highly competitive market like we're in right now, you might be equally qualified or better qualified than somebody, but if they've got better connections and better relationships, they're going to get the gig. And so connections are the new currency in this highly competitive market.
Isn't that already the case, though?
Absolutely. It's always been that way. So it's not a new idea, but it has now gone from, let's go back to February. Okay. We're talking 4 months ago, we were at 3.5% unemployment. Okay. There were more jobs available in the United States than there were people who were unemployed. So it was a worker's market in that you could submit a resume and not have a connection at all and stand a really good chance of getting hired because companies were desperate. They needed talent. And you could leave one company in the same position, go to another company in the same position and make more money. So that's what we were dealing with. And so obviously connections, I wrote a whole book called The Proximity Principle, which is about this. However, even more so now when now we flip from February to where, the jobs aren't there and we got more people that are unemployed. And so now it's going to really require that you leverage your relationships and connections to beat out the competition.
And can the proximity principle work even in the age of social distancing?
Of course, because we've seen it with Zoom. We saw meetings, not get interrupted. Some people now prefer these meetings. Some companies are going to go, wait a second, what are we doing here? Like, why do I have a building when I'm paying this much money every year on leasing a building when we could go to remote and we could have all of our meetings on Zoom? And why am I spending all this money on a travel budget, sending my team out for face-to-face meetings, and I'm paying for airfare and hotel and meals and rental car and all this kind of stuff? So again, because we can connect digitally, sure, proximity is always better in person. That's my personal, and again, I'm in favor of in-person meetings. I'm in favor of working in an office with a team because of the indisputable value in connecting with a person and seeing them and being in the room with them. However, yeah, you can connect with people via email and text and phone call and FaceTime and Zoom or whatever venue you want. And remember, for so many people, we write about there's 5 people in the proximity principle. For so many people, you can get in proximity to the great experts without ever having coffee or lunch with them, just simply on YouTube or a podcast or their book. Whether you read it or you listen to the book, you can learn from and connect with some of the greatest people in your industry, and you'll never sit down with them at all.
So the last question I have is the question many interviews begin with, which is, what's your background? How did you get here?
Yeah, well, that's a really, really long answer. I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes. I come from a lower middle class home. Mom and dad both worked. I had a tremendous appreciation for history and my opportunity to make history. And very supportive parents. There was very much a focus on our contribution, my brother and I, and being good citizens and good people and making a difference in the world. And that stuck with me, and certainly being in a home where we couldn't afford to go to Disney or any theme parks. So we went to battlefields and historical homes. And as I, soaked up the history of our great country, that has an impact on you. And you see great men and women that were ordinary at times and that did extraordinary things, or ordinary people who we eventually looked at as extraordinary, but they were really just ordinary men and women who were stepping up and making a difference. And so that really had an impact on me. And my dad was very engaged in politics. And so I got into politics in college, went into politics out of college. And as a result of working in politics, I had an opportunity to work for the governor of Virginia at the age of 23 and was setting a course to run for office one day. But there was a shift where I began to really lose my passion for politics and developed a passion for broadcasting and the opportunity to talk directly to people and bring them hope and affect them in a live broadcasting format. And that's what I fell in love with. And so that's the background that got me to the point where I made the shift from politics to broadcasting.